Hey guys, welcome to Read Remark. My name is Beth. Let's have a chat about Friday reads, shall we? Hey guys, so I'm giving Friday Reads another try because I had so much fun with it the last time, and also I've realized that I have not really taken the time to kind of sit into my thoughts and take some extra time with you in a while. My day job is in marketing, and in the marketing world, the shorter the video, the better, because people have increasingly smaller attention spans. So I've been trying to make this conscious effort to keep my videos short and sweet, but at what expense? Am I missing the chance to really go in depth on my thoughts on something by trying to be so concise? So probably going to be a little bit rambly today, maybe a little bit stream of consciousness, and I'm going to go even beyond books and talk about some other things as well. So hopefully you bear with me. I guess the stats will show me whether this works or not. So let's just get right into it. I want to talk about some of the things I've been reading lately. So a lot of people experience kind of this year-end rush for everything. Everything is so busy. There are presents to buy, work to be done before the year is finished, school tests if you have kids or if you are a student, just so many things to do to get ready for the year end that it's a little bit overwhelming. When you're adulting and you're not just a kid reveling in the magic of Christmas, it's kind of overwhelming. So I've been in a little bit of a reading slump lately. I have found that I haven't really had the emotional fortitude to take on a big book of the genre that I usually like. So that's usually literary fiction that really hits you in the soul, or it's crime or a thriller that, you know, shocks and astounds you and makes you clutch at your pearls. I haven't really had the fortitude for those kinds of books lately, so I figured I would try a different genre, jump on over to something different, and just check out a couple of romances to see if those helped me out. Now, I want to give a quick disclaimer. I don't see romance just as a fallback or just as a palate cleanser. I think that it's a perfectly respectable and respected genre that has its own rightful place in the literature world. So I'm not just saying that these are my fallback books, but it's not the genre I usually go to and not one I'm as familiar with. So I just wanted something different, something a little bit different. So one book I did was Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, and this was a NA book, new adult. Definitely not my genre because I am not new at adulting at all. I'm pretty well established in my adulthood, but it was still a really interesting book to read. Interesting in that it's a lifestyle that is not mine anymore, but it's still very just vicarious to go through these people's stories. So it really drew me in, and I think I finished it within a couple days. It was about this couple who met and were inextricably drawn to one another, but the male had all this past trauma and he just couldn't commit because he was so just emotionally unavailable. And so here's this woman falling deeper and deeper, and the love is ugly. It's a good book. I really enjoy Colleen Hoover. What I did not enjoy as much was the next book by hers that I read called All Your Perfects. I kind of wanted to try something with old marrieds. Some people who had already said I do after the happily ever after. I wanted to see what happens when maybe some things aren't as happy ever after, or there's a bump in the road in their romance story. And so All Your Perfects was a story like that, where this couple had been together about 9 years or something, already married. It goes back and forth between their present and their past. The past where they're falling in love, and the present in which their love has been torn asunder because they are facing infertility. Now, the thing that kind of bothered me about this book was how they treated infertility. So I have great respect for the people who are childless by choice, because I know firsthand how hard it is to raise a child. And I think it's pretty brave to be able to admit to yourself that that's just not a path that you want to go down. It's a path I'm very glad I went down. But I would never presume to tell someone that they're not a full adult or a full woman unless they have children. I would never want to say that to someone. So just like I would never try to flip someone who's childless by choice to having children, I feel like this book kind of did the opposite, where they flipped someone who had always wanted children. That was the path that she had chosen for herself. Tried to flip her very quickly to the childless by choice lifestyle, which, I don't know, it kind of rankled a little bit. I'm sure that there's supposed to be more motion to it, but for me it just seemed very sudden, a very sudden shift that had to happen. I don't know. Anyway, there was that. And then I segued into Wallbanger, which is kind of this comedic, funny, sexy time book about this woman whose neighbor gets it on with a whole bunch of people, and just the kind of madcap friendship that they develop from that. And I'm about halfway through, and I don't know if I'm going to finish it. It's cute, it's good. The thing that I'm not liking is that it just doesn't seem fair to me, because here he is getting it on with all these people, and she gets nothing, and it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating, and it's maybe a little bit too wacky for my taste, which is stupid because I'm a little too wacky for my taste. So I don't know, maybe I'll finish it, maybe not, we'll see. Okay, so that is pretty much the beginning and end of what I've read, other than articles. I've also been reading a lot of money diaries on Refinery 29. Every now and then I'll get in this jag where I just want to read all the things, and right now it's the money diaries, which is fascinating. Why is it so fascinating? It's voyeuristic, I guess. I don't know. It's where these women, mostly millennial women, I think, write a week in the life of their money spending. I don't know why I'm so drawn to it, but I am. It's fascinating seeing what these people spend money on. And the comments are just as fascinating, because some of them are so judgy, and then people come in from the other side saying, stop being so judgy, and then other people are like, but you can't help but judge them. It's just, you know, I look at some of these things almost like an archaeologist. So it's not my lifestyle, but boy is it fun to read about. So I don't know, I'm fascinated at looking at the micro details of people's everyday lives. Like in other countries, what do they eat? What kind of clothes do they wear? How often do they shower? What are their bedtime routines? Just the daily life, the minutia of daily life. So I think that's maybe the curiosity that the money diaries serves in me. Not even necessarily looking at a train wreck, because some of these are really good. It's just the everyday curiosity of what exactly are these people eating every day? What do they spend their money on? What are some of their daily habits? It's just so interesting. It's like getting an inside peek into their lives. It got too dark. It got too dark outside, so I had to move in. So let's continue this party indoors, shall we? I was thinking we could talk about podcasts, because that's another thing that I've been really getting into a lot lately, is listening to podcast after podcast. So I'm going to give you 3 really good ones that I've been listening to recently. One of them is season 2 of Mogul, and it talks about 2 Live Crew and the all the censorship fervor that was going on during the late 80s, early 90s. I was a kid during that time, and I remember everything that was going on, except I don't remember having really strong feelings about it. Like nowadays, I asked my own kids what would happen if I tried to censor what they listened to, and they said I would just go create a new Spotify account and lie about my birth date. So it's a lot harder nowadays to censor what the kids are listening to than it was back in the olden days of my own childhood. But it made me remember and become fascinated anew in all of the stuff that was going on during that time. There was this general sense of, oh my Lord, what are the children listening to? That was kind of spreading through the nation. And it the discourse became more, it went beyond just what are the children listening to, and kind of entered this realm of what in the world are people listening to. It was kind of this sense of shock and awe that people were having over the fact that some of these lyrics were X-rated. Looking at it from my point of view as an adult now is much different than it was when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, I think I wasn't quite sure what to think about it. I hadn't quite reached peak adolescent rebellion just yet. I obviously have a lot more feelings about it that I want to unpack, probably in a much longer and more in-depth video that might even verge on being a documentary. The problem is I don't know how to make documentaries, and I don't know that I alone am interesting enough to just talk about something for 45 minutes and keep people's attention. So I think I'm going to explore that thought a little bit more, because I just can't stop thinking about that podcast, thinking about that time period, and thinking about just the context and everything that was going on during that time. Fascinating stuff to me. Another podcast that I've been listening to is Over My Dead Body, Season 2, which deals with Joe Dirt. Okay, here's the thing. I am from Oklahoma. Joe Dirt is kind of infamous in this state for having this small exotic animal zoo. The thing he's infamous for is not necessarily the zoo, it's his personality. Interesting. And so it follows this story of Joe Dirt, not Joe Dirt, Joe Exotic. Did I call him Joe Dirt? It's been a long day. Joe Exotic. Hopefully I didn't say Joe Dirt. It follows this story of Joe Exotic and this murder for hire scheme that he was trying to cook up against one of his adversaries. There was a lot of controversy about how he handled his tigers. Was he being humane or inhumane? And one of his loudest critics was really putting a hamper on his business. And so he tried to hire out a contract killer to just do away with her. Didn't work. He got indicted. The woman is still alive. And it's just fascinating following the story. I'm fascinated by all things Joe Exotic. The whole thing is just, I can't stop. It's fascinating. Look him up on YouTube if you dare. It's a rabbit hole you will not soon come out of. Here's another podcast recommendation for you, and that is Gangster Capitalism. I have been listening to season 1 of this podcast, and it's all about the college admissions scandal, the varsity blues scandal, if you will, in which the uber rich were paying uber amounts of dollars to cheat their kids' ways into Ivy League colleges, and not just Ivy League, but well-respected colleges. So perhaps they will have a proctor who will give the kids a better grade on their standardized exams, or they'll have someone a person will just straight up take it for them. The kids don't even always know that it's happening. It's the stuff that Lori Loughlin or Felicity Huffman, these big name celebrities, are getting in trouble for now. Now, the thing that really it brings up is both the heartbreak of what they're doing to kids who are less financially endowed, because it's taking places away from them that they should be getting that they're not, because these entitled rich kids are getting it instead. The other thing that it exposes, though, is how fundamentally broken the college admissions process and even college financing process is to begin with. At one point, I think it was episode 4 or 5, one of the listeners wrote in a letter talking about how he had worked so hard, had gotten a 32 on his ACT, had near genius levels, and had qualified for Ivy League school, but even with a partial scholarship, could not afford it, couldn't go, had to go to a state college, which is fine, that's fine, but it's not what he would have deserved, as opposed to these thoroughly mediocre people who are getting into Ivy League schools because they have the money. Likewise, I even personally have a friend who is upper middle class, and has this brilliant daughter who had qualified for Ivy League education, and they couldn't send her because they couldn't afford it. Upper middle class. So it's just a system that's fundamentally broken. And I don't know what the right answer is other than more affordable college education and more transparent admissions processes, less reliance on standardized tests because not everybody is a great test taker. It's a whole conversation that I still haven't fully wrapped my brain around, but I think there's more to unpack there. Okay, the last thing I want to talk to you about on this Friday Reads Fireside Chat Bonanza is a song. It's not a book at all. It's a song called Here's to the Ladies Who Lunch. It's been playing in my head almost in a loop, and I keep listening to it over and over again. It's famously sung by Elaine Stritch, Broadway legend. So I'm going to link to it for you guys. It basically talks about deeply ingrained misogyny. Of course I have to talk about feminist topics, right? So the lyrics start off, here's to the ladies who lunch, everybody laugh, wearing their caftans and planning a brunch on their own behalf. It basically talks about all these different women and just how ridiculous they are just for being female. So whether they're students or harried moms or beautiful women, ugly women, every type of woman is pretty much harangued in this song, and it talks about just how ridiculous and worthless they are. These are things I see go on all the time in how people tear down all sorts of different types of women, whether it's sorority girls, girly girls, manly girls, the bra-burning feminists, the feminists who aren't feminist enough, or all sorts of different types of women. I'm guilty of it myself, maybe out of jealousy for the ladies who lunch, feeling a little bit holier than thou, as opposed to them as if their lives are meaningless and revolve around these elaborate, expensive lunches, which is not the case. I mean, they have worthwhile lives and feelings that go beyond lunch, and I feel bad. So I'm going to wrap up this video by giving a shout out, a hearty shout out to the Visco girls out there. I keep hearing a lot of hate talk about them and their hydro flasks and their scrunchies. They don't suck, Max. Max! They don't suck. Why do they suck? Because they're well hydrated and they like to have their hair pulled back? That's stupid. Okay, I am going to put on a scrunchie on their behalf. Yep, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Putting on the scrunchie. Nope, nope, I'm wearing it. I'm wearing it. Max, see? What is that deeply ingrained misogyny in you, Max? Why do you hate a girl just for being a girl?
They're not just being a girl, they're a Visco girl. So this is exactly
There's nothing wrong with that.
This is exactly what they do. They go, and I am, and look at my hydro flask.
So?
That's bull crap out of you.
I'm putting it on. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. They can talk how they want to talk. They can drink their water how they want to drink their water.
When you have it on, you are not my mother.
And that is perfectly valid. Here's to you, Visco girls, and any other kind of girls, women, ladies, or any sort of gender identity you may have. Here's to you. I'll drink to that. I'll drink to you. I think you're A-okay. Okay, let that be a lesson to you, Max. Okay, so this has turned into quite a long-winded talk. Hopefully I haven't lost all of y'all by now. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. Bye.